Title 42 was a Trump-era administration rule that required those seeking asylum in the United States to wait on the other side of the border while that asylum application was processed. And it was done under the justification that we didn't know who had COVID and who didn't, and trying to protect the country from the virus, we would ask people to stay on the other side of the border while it was processed. Well, the Biden administration has recently announced that they are going to revoke this rule, and they are going to allow people who apply for asylum to wait inside the borders of the United States. This has historically been a challenge because you don't always know where people are for the years often it takes for asylum applications to be processed. And oftentimes the government loses track, of the applicants. Well, the decision to revoke this rule has raised questions from even some Democrats in Congress who have begun to ask some pointed questions of the Biden administration about whether this is the right time to revoke the rule. Now, in addition, the decision to revoke Title 42 comes amidst reports from Border Patrol officials. The agents have apprehended nearly 210,000 migrants who illegally crossed the southern border with Mexico in March. And that was the 210,000 record migrants happened prior to the Biden administration's decision to revoke Title 42. So does this mean that when Title 42 is revoked, making it easier to come into the country, the number of migrants approaching the border and crossing the border and applying for asylum is going to increase even more? And further, does this mean that the apprehensions, that the record apprehensions at the border, that our Border Patrol is actually working? Is our border security correct? Is it effective? And does the record number of apprehensions indicate that our border security has been effective? And joining me now, and we are hoping, did we have her? Okay, and we are hoping to have Jennie Taer from Daily Caller here shortly to join us. But this is the dilemma that the Biden administration is facing, and frankly, the country is facing, because the Biden administration has faced a ton of criticism, not only because initially, they did not complete the border wall, which, as we know, the Trump administration has prioritized. And hundreds of miles of border wall had been laid across the southern border during the last year, in particular, of the Trump administration. And now much of the steel lays on the desert in Texas and southern Arizona, and it is unassembled. And there are giant holes in that wall. I have been there to see the giant holes in the wall, and the steel laying literally feet in some cases away from the hole in the wall. And the Biden administration ordered that the steel that is laying next to the wall not be placed up as part of the wall. And so, of course, that incentivized a lot of people to begin crossing the border. But now, in addition to that, we have this Title 42 issue, because the one thing that the Biden administration was carrying over from the Trump administration was the fact that for those seeking asylum, they were going to require them to wait on the other side of the border. So the combination of these things perhaps is leading to this record increase of migrants reaching the border. And the Biden administration has taken a tremendous amount of political heat for this already, certainly from Republicans. But what is becoming unique about this is that they are now beginning to get questions from the White House's allies in the Democratic Party as well. And I think we now have joining us by phone is Jennie Taer from the Daily Caller. Jennie, do we have you?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for joining us. Now, you've been tracking this issue at the border closely. What's your reaction initially to this latest figure from March, 210,000 migrants apprehended at the southern border?
Yeah, it's an astounding figure. It's actually the highest since March 2000. So that's going back over 2 decades. This is a problem that we're seeing, a rise in migrant encounters and apprehensions. And it seems like it's only going to get worse with Title 42 being lifted in May. May 23rd is when the CDC decided it would be lifted. So migrants are getting that message, as well as Border Patrol. Border Patrol is trying to prepare for this, and the Biden administration is recognizing that there will be a surge, but it's unclear what the plan is. And I think that's something that border officials I talk to that are going to have to handle this are really concerned about.
Yeah, Jennie, how is the White House reacting to these record numbers? Do they have an explanation for this?
You know, this is the time of year that the migrant encounters surge, and that's why, you know, every March we see it when things kind of get cooled down temperature-wise. It's not too cold, it's not too hot, and it's just before those brutal summer months at the border. So they've kind of used this line whenever things have peaked that this is the season for immigration. It's interesting. They say they're ready for a surge, and they recognize that more people are coming. So, you know, they say they're prepared. But again, you know, President Biden said he would eventually visit the border. That's what the White House said. So you would think that now is the time. So maybe someone should ask the White House about that, given we're in the state of a huge surge last month in March, and now something probably even more that they're expecting.
Jennie, you mentioned the 210,000 apprehensions at the border. Certainly not everyone was apprehended, because that's just the way these things work. Is there any argument to be made that the record number of apprehensions is evidence that border security is actually working? They're apprehending that many people because the border is secure.
I would argue that Title 42 is working. You know, of the 221,000 people encountered, there were 109,000 just about that were sent back under Title 42 last month. So it will be interesting to see what it's going to be like when everyone is processed under what's known as Title 8 for inadmissibility, because they will have to await court proceedings. So it's going to be the case where Border Patrol ICE doesn't have enough space if they're going to see a surge like they're expecting, and people will have to be released, and that's what I'm told.
There's a lot of frustration about this. We've mentioned that the Republicans have been hitting President Biden on this hard since the day of his inauguration. With the revocation of Title 42, he's starting to take some heat from his own party now. Is there a solution to this problem, or do we just eternally have to talk about this southern border crisis?
Right. I think, you know, a lot of both sides talk about solutions to the issue. I've yet to really understand what the solution is to everyone that has been admitted into the country, because that is something Republicans complain about, that everyone is released and that everybody is going to be released. That's something they use as a talking point. But I've asked Republican leadership about this. When it comes to enforcement and removals, which is mostly what ICE handles, what is their plan? And there doesn't seem to be one right now. So that's something that Republicans should be pressed more on, especially if they win back the majority. It doesn't appear like they have a plan.
Jennie Taer, Daily Caller, thank you so much for your time and your update on this. We look forward to having this conversation again, because I know the issue is not going away. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.